Welcome to Elena, Storyteller, a place where novels, love stories, social psychology, and timeless sayings are retold with deep emotions. Join Elena to listen, empathize, and embark on the emotional journey of today's story.
Now, Elena invites you to listen to the novel, When Time Stands Still. Chapter 1, The House by the Sea. Late afternoon in Santa Monica. The sky blazed red as though on fire, while the vast ocean stretched endlessly to the horizon. Waves, capped with white foam, rolled one after another, crashing against the sandy shore and carrying the salty breath of the sea into the air. Overhead, seagulls wheeled and cried, their calls echoing like the overture to a new chapter of life. Emma Carter sat in her old pickup truck, her gaze fixed on the small wooden house by the sea. The house had stood there since the 1940s, weathered by time. Its gray-tiled roof draped in moss, the wooden fence leaning askew, the window panes fogged and dim. From the outside, it seemed unremarkable, perhaps even shabby. Yet the very first moment Emma saw the listing online, her heart had raced. Perhaps it was the scenery, pine trees stretching behind, the endless ocean before. Or perhaps it was something deeper, a sense that the house held a secret, as if it were softly calling her name. Emma was a journalist. For years, her life had been bound to breaking news, relentless deadlines, and journeys without pause. To others, she seemed strong, free, and driven. But deep inside, Emma always felt hollow. A love left unfinished years ago had carved a wound that never healed. The man she once trusted, the one she thought would share her life, had chosen to walk away, leaving Emma adrift, no longer believing in dreams of happiness. And so, she chose to leave the city's noise behind and search for peace by the sea. This wooden house on the edge of Santa Monica, seemingly ordinary, had become the beginning of something new. The wooden door groaned as Emma pushed it open. A chill sea breeze swept inside, carrying the briny scent of salt mixed with the must of old timber. The ceiling arched high, beams silvered with age, the white paint on the walls peeling into patches. A few empty frames still hung there, draped in cobwebs. The uneven wooden floor creaked softly with every step she took. Emma smiled. She did not feel disappointment. On the contrary, she sensed a strange beauty in the house's decay, an untold past whispering to her. She murmured to herself, "I'll bring this place back to life. I'll make it a home, not just a portrait of memory." She spent the afternoon cleaning. Moldy curtains were stripped away, window glass polished to welcome the light. By the time the last rays of sunset spilled into the living room, the house seemed to glow with warmth, as if it had been reborn. Night fell. The ocean still murmured without rest. Emma brewed a cup of tea and stepped onto the balcony. From there, she could see the silver tide sweeping across the sand, and in the distance, the fishing boats' lights glimmering like stars upon the water. The sea breeze tousled her golden hair, the salt tang seeping into every breath. And then something strange. Amid the sounds of waves and wind, she thought she heard piano music. Gentle, wistful notes floated through the air like the strains of an old love song. Emma froze, listening intently. But in an instant, the sound faded, leaving only silence. She let out a small laugh, shaking her head. "I must be tired, just imagining things." The next day, Emma set to work repairing the house. While prying at a wooden panel in the bedroom, her hammer struck a hollow spot. A different sound. Her heartbeat quickened. She set the hammer aside, used a knife to wedge it open, and the rotting wood gave way, revealing a narrow, hidden space. Emma reached in and pulled out a small wooden box, heavy and layered in dust. Old and worn, the carvings on its lid had faded, yet 3 initials could still be made out: JW. Her hands trembled as she held it. A rush of anticipation surged through her, like she had uncovered buried treasure. She set the box on the table and slowly lifted the lid. Inside lay a bundle of old letters tied with a fraying silver ribbon and a weathered leather journal yellowed with age. The scent of old paper rose into the air, carrying the breath of a bygone era. Emma carefully untied the ribbon and unfolded the first letter. The ink, slanted and steady, was clearly written by a man. It was addressed to a woman named Clara. June 17, 1943. My dearest Clara, if tomorrow I do not return, please remember that my heart will always belong to you. When you see the birds spread their wings across the sky, know that someone is thinking of you every passing moment. James Walker. Emma set the letter down, her heart pounding. The words were simple, yet brimming with fierce, unyielding love, a devotion that seemed to transcend every distance. A wartime pilot, a love that had never reached its destination. That night, Emma carried the box of letters to her bed. She read line after line until her weary eyes finally closed. And then she dreamed. She found herself standing in the middle of an old military airfield. Silver planes lined the runway, engines roaring. Smoke, wind, hurried soldiers rushing by. Amid the chaos, a young pilot turned toward her. He had wavy brown hair, eyes as deep as the sea. Sunlight fell across his face, calm yet resolute. He looked straight at Emma, smiled softly, and called out, "Clara." Emma jolted awake. The room was dark, lit only by moonlight streaming through the window. The ocean's whispers filled the night. But the vision lingered, the eyes, the smile, so vivid, too real to be only a dream. She turned to the wooden box resting beside her. And in that moment, Emma knew. Her life had crossed into a story beyond reason, a love buried by time, waiting to be awakened. Chapter 2. Dreams Bridging Two Worlds. The next morning, Emma woke with a strange restlessness in her chest. The image of the man from her dream lingered vividly in her mind. The pilot's uniform, the tousled brown hair in the wind, the deep blue eyes like the ocean, and that warm, steady voice calling the name, Clara. She sat by the window, staring out at the sea. The silver waves rose and fell against the shore, steady as the heartbeat of the universe. Everything around her remained unchanged, yet Emma felt her world had shifted. She couldn't stop thinking about James Walker, the name scrawled in those letters. That man had once loved fiercely a woman named Clara. And now, somehow, his spirit seemed to drift between past and present, still lingering in this place. The unsent letters. That morning, with a cup of coffee in hand, Emma returned to the wooden box. She carefully unfolded a few more letters. One was written right here, in the seaside house. Clara, the sea is restless today. I stood on the porch and thought of you, of the times we sat side by side, listening to music, dreaming of faraway places. Tomorrow I leave for the front, but in my heart there is only your image. Another came from the battlefield. My dearest Clara, the sky burns red tonight. I have seen so many friends fall, yet I remain, because I promised you I would return. If fate is kind, I will once again hold your hand under the moonlight by the sea. Each word carried the breath of another era. As Emma read, her hands trembled. This was no longer just ink on yellowed paper. The love James had poured into every line still lived here, inside these walls. The second dream. That night, Emma dreamed again. She found herself in a small room lit by the soft glow of an oil lamp. A worn piano sat against the wall, its notes filling the air with a melody that swelled and broke like the tide. At the piano sat James. His hands moved across the keys, but when he lifted his gaze to her, Emma froze. He was no longer a blurred figure. He was vivid, alive, every detail etched clearly. The faint lines near his eyes, the warm breath tinged with tobacco, the gentleness in his expression shadowed by sorrow. Clara, at last you're here. Emma's heart stopped. She wanted to tell him she was Clara, but her lips would not move. She stood as if spellbound by those ocean-deep eyes. James rose and came toward her, his hand lifted, pausing just inches from her arm. Emma felt a current of energy run through her, though he hadn't touched her yet. I have waited so long for you. Emma whispered, her voice breaking. I'm not Clara. James faltered, the smile fading. Yet he looked deeper into her eyes and after a pause said softly, You may not believe me, but your eyes, your voice, they are hers. The piano swelled once more, though no one touched the keys. The lamp flickered as though trembling. Emma's heart swayed, caught between disbelief and surrender. Awakening. She jolted awake to the sound of waves crashing. The room was dark, lit only by moonlight spilling through the window. Yet the warmth of his nearness still lingered on her hand. Emma sat up, reached for the wooden box, and rifled through the letters. This time, she found something new tucked between them, a photograph. James stood in his pilot's uniform, smiling with boyish confidence. Beside him was a young woman, surely Clara. Emma's throat tightened. Why had she dreamed of him so vividly? Why did he call her by Clara's name? Why did it all feel so achingly real? Questions crowded her mind, yet no answers came, only the eternal whisper of waves outside, as though they knew secrets she could not. The presence in the house. The next morning, Emma walked the beach. The sand crunched beneath her bare feet, the wind tangled her hair. Now and then, she felt the distinct sensation of being watched. She turned, no one, yet her intuition screamed otherwise. When she returned, her heart lurched. The wooden box sat open on the table, though she remembered closing it the night before. One letter had slipped free, lying face up, its last lines exposed. If fate should part us, I believe one day our souls will find each other again. In whatever world that may be, I will always recognize you. Emma dropped heavily into a chair. The words seemed written not for Clara, but for her. The third dream. That night, the dreams returned. Emma stood on the moonlit beach. James was there, tall and proud, pilot's cap in hand. He came toward her with that gentle smile, his eyes fathomless. Do you remember? We promised to watch the moon together here. Emma's voice trembled. James, are you real, or just my dream? His hand brushed her hair. This time, she felt the warmth, unmistakable and true. Dreams are a part of truth, if your heart believes. I have drifted through endless silence for 80 years, only to find you again. Tears welled in her eyes. She wanted to deny it, to cling to reason, but his presence overwhelmed her. The emotion between them was too strong, too alive. James leaned closer, his lips nearly brushing hers, when suddenly a great wave surged, crashing over them both. Emma woke with a gasp, drenched in sweat, heart hammering. She buried her face in her hands, trembling in the midnight silence. The only sound was the wind seeping through the cracks, yet within her, a deeper storm raged. There was no denying it now. James Walker was not just a name in forgotten letters. He was here, woven into her dreams, her nights, perhaps even her life, in a way no logic could explain. And Emma knew, with a shiver, this was only the beginning. Chapter 3. The line between dreams and reality. Morning draped Santa Monica in a veil of mist. The sun lingered shyly behind the clouds, while the crests of waves glimmered faintly under the muted light. Emma stood on the balcony with a steaming cup of coffee in her hand, though her thoughts were far from the quiet shoreline. Last night, she had dreamed of James again, 3 times now, and with each dream, everything grew sharper, more tangible. His voice, his breath, his gaze, even the warmth of his hand brushing her cheek. These dreams did not feel like dreams at all, but a parallel world, where time bent and folded so that she and he could meet. Questions flooded her mind. Who was James Walker truly? Was he alive still or long gone? And Clara, why did he see her as Clara? Emma knew she couldn't just keep drifting in dreams. She needed answers. The first clues. Emma opened her laptop and typed, James Walker, World War II pilot. Dozens of results appeared, but they were muddled. Too many men with the same name, none certain. She refined the search. James Walker, Santa Monica, 1943. This time, something surfaced from the archives. September 1943, pilot James Walker, age 26, born in Santa Monica, went missing during a mission over the sea. His body was never recovered. He is survived by his family and his fiancée, Miss Clara Hayes. Emma read the lines over and over, her chest tightening. The names matched. James, Clara, Santa Monica. She leaned back in her chair, breath shallow. James never returned. Clara lost the man she loved to war. And now, 80 years later, Emma was dreaming of him, hearing him call her by Clara's name. A chill rippled through her. Could it be James's spirit was still bound to this house, still waiting for Clara to return? And had she, Emma, unknowingly become the bridge between them? Milky Way, the wall between two worlds. That night, Emma fought against sleep. She feared the dreams would pull her under once again. But exhaustion had its way, and darkness claimed her. In her dream, she stood at a vast airfield. Engines roared, flags whipped in the wind, soldiers embraced in hurried farewells. James appeared, tall and striking in his uniform, striding toward her with eyes alight as though life itself had returned to him. "Clara, you came back." Emma's voice trembled. "James, I'm not Clara. My name is Emma. I live in the year 2025. He froze, stunned. Then a sad smile flickered across his lips, his voice quivering. "Time plays cruel games with us. Perhaps you are not Clara, yet there is something of her within you. When I look at you, I see her again." Emma wanted to deny it, to argue, but tears welled in her eyes. She could feel the loneliness woven through his every word, a soul adrift for 80 years, clinging only to love as his anchor. She whispered, "James, you went missing. You never came home." James turned, his gaze fixed on the distant planes preparing for takeoff. A shadow of sorrow crossed his face. "I know I saw my last moment, and when I awoke, I was trapped. No more war, no more comrades, only an endless sky and waiting. I waited for Clara, and now I see you." Emma's hand trembled as she reached for him. Just as their fingers nearly touched, a siren wailed, the scene shuddered, and James began to fade, dragged back into the void. "James," she cried. And Emma woke with a jolt. Crescent moon, waking to a chilling truth. Sweat drenched her brow. The room lay silent and dark, but the wooden box on the table had been left open. The letter she had read yesterday was neatly tucked inside, yet another had slipped free. Emma picked it up, heart hammering. In it, James had written, "If one day you cannot find me, know that I will find you. No matter how long time may part us, I will always recognize your eyes, your voice, and your soul." Her hands shook violently. The words felt as though they were meant not for Clara of the past, but for Emma of now. An unexpected encounter. The next morning, while Emma worked in the garden, a voice called from beyond the fence. "New here, aren't you?" Emma looked up. A man stood there, tall and broad-shouldered in his early 30s. Warm brown eyes, a kind smile. He wore a white shirt, sleeves rolled, a tool in his hand. "I'm Ethan Miller, your neighbor. I live just a few houses down." Emma nodded, a little flustered. She had been so consumed by the letters and dreams that she had forgotten the real world around her. Ethan chatted easily, then offered to help mend her fence. As they worked, Ethan shared a local story. The house, he said, had once belonged to a young pilot named James Walker. People whispered he had gone missing in the war, and that his fiancée never married, waiting for him until the end of her life. Emma froze. The tale aligned perfectly with what she had discovered. When Ethan glanced at her, he caught a strange glimmer in her eyes, something like grief, something like a secret. He didn't press, only smiled gently. "If you ever need help, just call me." Emma managed a smile, though her heart churned. Ethan was solid, real, warm. Yet James was still there, a shadow across time. That night, Emma sat again before the box of letters. Her fingers brushed the photograph of James and Clara, and tears slipped unbidden down her cheeks. She whispered to herself, "Who am I in this story? An outsider, or someone chosen by fate to carry on a love left unfinished?" Beyond the walls, the sea whispered endlessly, as though it knew better than she. The line between dreams and reality was blurring with each passing day. And Emma knew there was no turning back. Chapter 4, The Heart at the Crossroads. The days that followed passed in a haze of conflict. By day, Emma lived in the present with the blue sea, the ocean wind, and the steady warmth of Ethan's presence. By night, she was pulled into dreams where James awaited her, where a love beyond time still burned bright. Two worlds coexisted, each tugging her heart in opposite directions. Herb reality with Ethan. That afternoon, Ethan knocked on her door, carrying a basket of fresh fruit. His smile was gentle. "I stopped by the farmer's market. Thought you might enjoy something fresh." Emma took the basket, a strange warmth rising within her. It had been so long since she'd received such simple, genuine kindness. Ethan never pried, never intruded. He simply existed near her, solid and reliable. They sat together on the porch, the sea breeze tossing their hair. Ethan spoke of his childhood in Santa Monica, of his mother who had taught him to play piano, of the years he'd spent working as a construction engineer across the country. Before returning to the ocean, he could never truly leave. Emma listened intently, smiling now and then. In the fading glow of sunset, his face radiated sincerity that made her heart tremble faintly. Yet in that fleeting moment, another image surfaced. James, in his uniform, smiling at her across the skis of 1943. Emma turned away quickly, afraid her eyes might betray the turmoil within. Milky Way dreams with James. Night fell, and once again Emma was swept into the other world. She stood by the shore, waves murmuring under the silver wash of the moon. James appeared, the same as always, his tall frame, his deep blue eyes brimming with tenderness. He stepped closer, taking her hand. This time, the warmth of his touch was undeniable, no longer a fleeting illusion. "Clara or Emma, I no longer know which to call you, but whenever you come, I feel alive again." Emma's throat tightened. "James, do you know? In my world, you went missing over 80 years ago. Clara waited for you all her life." James was silent for a long while, then gave a sorrowful smile. "I waited too. Perhaps waiting was always my fate. But now, if you are the one I've found, can you believe that love can outlast time itself?" Her heart quivered. In that dream, she wanted to nod, to surrender. Yet the thought of Ethan flickered before her, holding her back. Tears welled up. I don't know. I don't know where I belong anymore." James tightened his grip, whispering, "Let your heart decide. Do not fear time." Crescent moon, a tangle of fears. Emma woke with damp cheeks, her pillow stained by tears. Her chest felt unbearably heavy. That day, she avoided Ethan's eyes, though his kindness remained constant. As she walked along the beach, she stumbled upon remnants of the past, a weathered wooden sign faintly etched with the name Walker, likely once belonging to James's family. The fragments of history closed in on her, trapping her between two eras. Broken heart, a moment of confession. One evening, Ethan stopped by with a guitar slung over his shoulder. Without a word, he sat on the porch steps and strummed a gentle melody. His warm, steady voice rose, mingling with the rhythm of the waves. Emma listened silently, her heart twisting. When the song ended, Ethan set the guitar down and met her eyes. "Emma, I don't know what weighs on you or why you always seem so far away, but I'll tell you the truth. I feel drawn to you, to the way you listen, to the sorrow in your eyes. I want to be near you. If you'll let me, I want to be the one you can lean on." Emma froze. His words were like a blade, splitting her heart in two. On one side stood Ethan, real, warm, solid, someone she could hold on to at any moment. On the other, James, eternal, timeless, yet fragile as a dream. She said nothing, her head bowed, eyes shimmering with tears. Ethan didn't press, only rested his warm hand gently on her shoulder and sat quietly beside her. Water waved the crossroads. That night, Emma dreamed again, but the scene was no longer peaceful. She saw James amid a sky of fire, the roar of engines, the thunder of guns. He turned to her, eyes full of anguish. "Emma, I don't have much time left. If you don't choose, I'll vanish forever." Her heart seized. "No, James, don't go." He reached out, but shadows dragged him away. Emma screamed, chasing after him, only to be swallowed by darkness. She jolted awake, heart hammering wildly. In the dim room, the wooden box had cracked open again. This time, another letter had slipped free, one Clara must never have opened. On the page, written in trembling lines, "If I disappear, and if someone else finds you, believe that it is me, just in another form." Emma clutched the letter to her chest, tears streaming. Two men, one bound to her dreams, one standing in her present. One, a lonely spirit who had waited 80 years. The other, a living heart offering warmth and devotion. Emma knew she could no longer run. Her heart had reached the crossroads. Chapter 5. The Choice of Fate. That night, Emma couldn't sleep. She sat at her desk, the golden lamplight casting shadows across her pale face. In her hands lay the last letter from the wooden box, James's trembling handwriting carrying the breath of a soul yet unfreed. If I disappear, and if someone else finds you, believe that it is me, in another form. Those words felt like a message carried across time and space, pushing Emma to the edge of destiny itself. Crescent moon facing James. The next night, Emma entered the dream once more. But this time, there was no moonlit shore, no silver waves. Before her stretched a sky aflame, explosions shaking the air, planes bursting like broken-winged birds. James stood there, tall against the inferno, his face marked by smoke and fire, yet his eyes still burned with light. His lips trembled as he spoke. Emma, or Clara, I no longer know what to call you, but I know this will be the last time. Emma's voice shook. James, don't say that. He stepped closer, lifting her face gently in his hand. The warmth of his touch made her ache, as though this world were no dream at all. I've waited too long, he whispered. Waited until time itself lost meaning, but now I have to leave. My soul can't remain trapped forever. Tears streamed down her face. But I need you. James smiled, a smile both pained and tender. No, you need to live. You still have a future, a world meant for you. Perhaps that's why you were brought here, to complete what Clara could not. Emma clung to him, her heart breaking. If you go, I'll never see you again, will I? James was silent, then murmured softly. True love never vanishes. It only changes form. If one day you find someone who stirs your heart, believe that it is me too, just in another shape. The words echoed within her, searing themselves into her very bones. The world shook violently. James began to dissolve into light, his body scattering into shining fragments. Emma cried out, reaching desperately, but her hands grasped only empty air. James. Her scream shattered the dream. Water wave awakening to emptiness. Emma bolted upright, heart racing, tears soaking her pillow. The room was silent but for the distant crash of waves. She turned toward the wooden box. To her shock, it had closed on its own, as if it had never opened. On the lid, the photograph of James and Clara had blurred, their features fading into nothing. Her body shook with the realization. James was gone. His soul had finally been set free. Emma sat motionless for a long time, hollow yet strangely unburdened. It was as though a weight had been lifted, and with it, something she could never regain. Herb light from Ethan. The next morning, Emma sat dazed on the porch when Ethan appeared, carrying a small bouquet. He placed it gently on the table. You look tired, another sleepless night. Emma nodded faintly, saying nothing. Ethan sat beside her, asking no questions. He simply placed his hand over hers. The warmth made her tremble, and tears welled up without warning. She collapsed against his shoulder, sobbing like a child. Ethan spoke no words, only wrapped his arms around her, solid, steady, like the last shelter she had in this world. When her sobs quieted, she whispered, I've lost someone forever. Ethan's reply was gentle, like the sea breeze itself. Maybe you've lost someone, but that doesn't mean you have to face life alone. His words stirred something within her, the echo of James's final promise. If you find someone who moves your heart, believe that it is me in another form. Her chest tightened. James's words and Ethan's presence intertwined in that fragile instant. Milky Way, the moment of choice. That evening, Emma walked the shoreline alone. The moon spilled silver across the waves, the wind whispering secrets through the night. She closed her eyes, remembering every moment with James, the tenderness in his gaze, the letters brimming with longing, the warmth of his hand. When she opened them again, she saw Ethan standing not far away, his brown eyes fixed on her, steady and sincere. Emma moved toward him, each step parting the fog within her heart. Standing before Ethan, her voice trembled. "Ethan, I don't know if I'm ready. My heart still carries so many scars, but if you're willing, I want to try to believe in the present." Ethan held her gaze for a long moment, then nodded, smiling gently. "I don't need you to be ready right away. I only need you to give me a chance." Emma broke into tears again, but this time not from despair. These were tears of release, of a new beginning. For a fleeting moment, she lifted her eyes to the sky. She thought she saw James smiling through the moonlight before dissolving into the ocean breeze. Emma whispered in her heart, "James, thank you. Your love brought me here to find myself and to find another heart." From that moment on, Emma knew her choice was not to forget James, but to carry him within her as an eternal piece of her soul. Yet in the present, she would walk forward with Ethan, the man fate had placed on her path. The love that had spanned time had fulfilled its purpose. And at last, Emma chose to live in the now. Chapter 6, The Ending Beneath the Moonlight. The Santa Monica shore remained unchanged. The waves still crashed, the wind still whispered, but Emma's heart was no longer the same. The days of being lost between dreams and reality had passed, leaving behind an emptiness, but also opening a new path. Crescent Moon, a farewell in dreams. That night, for the first time, Emma slept without being pulled immediately into James's world. She tossed and turned for hours, thinking the dreams had finally closed forever. But when the moonlight poured through her window, she suddenly found herself standing on the familiar shore. James appeared, dressed in his weathered uniform. This time, though, there was no smoke, no fire, no grief. He walked toward her with a serenity she had never seen before. "Emma." Her body trembled. His voice rang deep within her heart. He no longer called her Clara, only Emma. "This is the last time I will come, not to hold on, but to say goodbye." Tears streamed silently down her cheeks. "James, I will never forget you." He smiled, gentle as moonlight. "You don't need to forget. All I want is for you to live. True love doesn't disappear, it transforms into strength to carry us forward. And you already have someone to walk beside you now." He reached out, brushing her cheek. This time there was no trembling, no illusion, only one final touch of tenderness. "Be happy, Emma. That's how you'll keep me alive forever." Then he turned away, step by step, dissolving into the pale silver glow. The whole beach lit up, then fell silent. Emma called out, but her voice dissolved into the wind. And in that silence, she understood. James was gone at last, free, as if he had never known pain. The days that followed. From then on, Emma never saw James in her dreams again. The seaside apartment slowly became her home, no longer haunted. The wooden box remained, but when she opened it, only blank pages lay inside. The ink of the letters had vanished, as though they had never been written. Emma understood. The past had finally closed. By day, she cleaned the house, planted flowers along the porch. Ethan often visited, sometimes bringing food, sometimes repairing the roof, sometimes just sitting quietly with her, listening to the sea. Gradually, Emma's heart softened. The wound had not vanished, but it no longer bled. And into that space, Ethan's quiet light gently flowed. Milky Way beneath the moonlight. One evening, Ethan invited Emma for a walk along the shore. The full moon hung high, its light shimmering across the silver waves. He stopped, handing her a small box. Inside was a simple silver bracelet, engraved with 2 letters, E and E. Emma looked up, startled. Ethan smiled. "I'm not rushing. I know your heart once belonged elsewhere. But if you'll allow me, I want to be the one who walks with you, from now, into whatever comes after." Emma's hands trembled as she touched the bracelet. For a fleeting moment, she looked to the sky and thought she saw James smiling from afar. Tears welled, but they were warm, tender tears. She nodded, voice breaking softly. "Ethan, thank you for coming and for waiting for me." Ethan clasped her hand, saying nothing more. They stood together beneath the moon, listening to the sea sing its endless song. Rose closing. Time passed, and Emma slowly found peace. Each morning she woke not to emptiness, but to a new day opening before her. James remained in her heart, a sacred memory, a flame that had guided her back to herself. But now she had chosen to walk with Ethan, to love again here in the real world. On that Santa Monica night, the moon lit up the shore. Two shadows stretched across the sand, hand in hand. In the distance, the waves rolled endlessly toward the horizon, whispering that love, whether transcending time or rooted in the present, always leaves an immortal trace in the human heart. Emma looked up at the sky, whispering softly, "Goodbye, James, and hello to a new beginning." The moon smiled, the sea shimmered, and the love story that had transcended time came to a close, sorrowful yet beautiful, haunting yet complete.
Thank you so much for watching until the end. Don't forget to subscribe to support Elena, storyteller, and stay tuned for the next heartfelt video.